Hello everyone and welcome to Recap V. Today we'll be talking about an anime called Monster. Monster is a Japanese manga series written and illustrated by Naoki Urasawa. It was published by Shogaku Kan in their Big Comic Original magazine between 1994 and 2001. The manga series was adapted into an anime by Madhouse, which aired between April 7, 2004, and September 28, 2005, on Nippon TV. Watch out for spoilers and let us begin. The next episode starts off with a knocking on Tenma's door, which wakes him up. When he opens it, he sees cops asking him where he's been at the night, and after telling them he's been out drinking, they give him the news about the director and his colleagues. Tenma then rushes to the hospital, only to find it in chaos. He tries to take control of stuff, but a nurse comes and tells him that the little boy and the girl are gone. When he goes to Johan's room, he only finds their gifts there. The man is shocked and simply asks what the heck is going on. After this, the scene cuts to the funeral, and then we see Tenma with his friend being stopped by some detectives. One of the detectives, who is doing some weird hand movements called lunge from the BKA, starts to explain that they had found the same candy wrapper close to the three bodies, and that they were poisoned by it. He also seems to be suspicious of Tenma. Tenma realizes that and seems to get angry as he starts to ask for the kids, and the detective explains that they might be related to this case, as it might have to do with their parents' deaths as well. After Tenma and his friend leave, the other detective asks Lunge why he moves his hand like that. And he explains that he is just typing, inputting all the information in his brain. We then go to Tenma, who tells his friend that he is thinking of going back to Japan. But some days later, we see Tenma with a patient who starts begging the man to not leave, since there aren't many good doctors. The same thing happens with a nurse, and then is called by the chairman, who promotes him chief of surgery. We then see him outside and seems to be losing it, as he starts thinking about how when he wanted these things he couldn't get them, but as soon as he decided to leave, he got them all, saying what a life this is, as he starts crying. After this, we see him on a date with Eva. She tries to flirt with him, and says that she wants to start over, but thankfully the man has grown and simply leaves without saying a single word, and the girl is left crying on the streets, where she belongs. We are then sent 9 years later in 1995, where we see some officers in a flooded city, investigating a middle-aged couple, who were killed by a thief that has been on the run for the past 2 years. We also see that one of the detectives is Detective Lunge. He adds up that these murderers haven't been done by one person, saying that the doors had quite strong locks plus an alarm system, and saying that the victims didn't show any sign of struggle before getting killed, and that the neighbors didn't hear a single sound. He then shows a picture of a man called Adolf Junkers, and says that he has been arrested twice for larceny, and that he is a professional at lock picking. Also adding up that the guy has been spotted near these murders. We then see Junkers running from something, and cutting off a car, which hits him. We then go to a hospital where Junkers is sent, and there we see Detective Lunge, who says to the doctor that they must cure the man, but the doctor explains that there is nothing he can do. But then says that there is a neurosurgeon who might be able to do something, and the detective cuts him off by saying that would be Dr. Tenma. After he arrived, Tenma didn't seem to remember the detective, until he reminded him of the day they met at the funeral, and said that he should try his best on this patient, for the sake of the BKA. The doctor says that he will do it for the life of the patient, and not for the police. He then reminded him about the director and his colleagues, saying that the investigation was dropped due to lack of evidence, and then adds up that the murders were calculated once, and that this happens only when someone has something to gain out of it, and the only person that did, was Tenma. Also added that in his career not one case has gone unsolved. After this, the doctor leaves and manages to succeed on the operation. When he goes to check on Junker, the man has a hard time talking and barely manages to say, "The monster is coming," shocking Tenma as the third episode ends. In episode 4 we see Detective Lunge asking Junkers about the murders, and then starts teasing him, saying he couldn't have done it, and that he was just the lock picker, but after asking who hired him and the others to kill these couples. The man starts shaking and then screaming. Tenma angrily orders them to leave, and the detective in the end agrees, but first, he says he will put a guard to protect Junkers so he doesn't get poison, teasing Tenma as well. Some days later, Tenma takes Junkers outside the park where some kids were playing. There he starts talking about how this place calms him down, and talks about how corrupted the hospital used to be and that the only thing he cared about was how to get a higher status. But after saving a little boy's and girl's life, he remembered why he became a doctor at the first place. Junkers then starts saying even though they are the same age, Tenma feels like a father to him. After this he talks about his past, and how he liked a clock he used to see at a store, and that one day he tried to steal it, and that's how he started lock picking, and starts crying as he says all he wanted was a stupid clock. Tenma then tells him that he should tell the detectives everything and get a fresh start. But when he turns, he sees Junkers shocked saying they are dead, all my friends were killed. And after Tenma asks who did it, the scene cuts. We then see Tenma and his colleague walking to go on a date with some girls, but Tenma then sees a clock, one that looked like the one Junkers described, and went to buy it. After this we see him at the hospital, and there he finds the guard to Junkers' room dead. He rushes inside but finds no one there, and then sees the exit door open so he runs through it. At an abandoned building, he hears Junkers' voice telling him to run and get away from here. When he reaches the man, he finds him on his knees with another man standing close to him. This guy then says it has been a long time, to Tenma, which surprises him since he didn't recognize the man. But after this, he reminded Tenma about the twins he saved 9 years ago, which shocked him. Tenma then asks Johan what he is doing, and tells him to let Mr. Junker go. But Johan takes out a gun and says that he is doing an execution, as he points it at Junker. Junkers then starts telling the doctor to run, and explains that he is the man that hired him and his friends to steal and kill these middle-aged couples. And after this, the police started investigating and following them, so Johan started killing them, but he managed to escape till now. As Johan gets ready to shoot, Tenma stopped him, and said that Junker doesn't know a thing about the man, but he himself does, and starts telling him about everything he knows about him. But Johan then smiles, and says, yes, there was a time when he went by that name and identity. And then he says that Johan isn't actually his name. After this he thanks Tenma, and says that he has been like a father to him. Tenma then says he can't just go around killing, so Johan simply asks why. Tenma then explains that a human life is precious, and saying that saving him opened his eyes. Johan then starts laughing, and says that didn't he get promoted as chief of surgery, after he killed the director and the other doctors, and that he was so glad he was able to help. Shocking Tenma, but Johan then says isn't it what he wanted, and reminded him of how he said they deserve death, and then saying all he did was grant his wish. After this, he kills Junker, and goes up to Tenma saying you're the one that resurrected me, as he is looking at him in a creepy way, and then walks away. After this, we see him and Detective Lunge as he starts repeating the story Tenma had told them. They release the man as they had no evidence that he had done it. And then we see Lunge looking at Tenma as he is leaving the station, as well as Tenma breaking down crying as the episode ends. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment on what you think about it, and don't forget to subscribe, so I can make more recaps of movies, TV shows, animes, etc. See you all on the next video.